Hello and welcome. This is Birza Paul.
Today we are going to learn about JavaScript closure. As we know that JavaScript closure is a bit confusing when we are not clear about it. So our today's attempt will be to make it clear to all of us. Let me start with the JavaScript closure definition. Okay, closure is the combination of a function and a statistically saved all parent scopes using the scope property, this one. Okay, so the definition might be not that clear, but we are going to be making it clear. So let's dive into the code and get the internal core concept of JavaScript closure. Okay, so let's write a function. I'm going to write a function. This is nothing but a function definition, get username, and inside the get username function I'm going to write a variable called username and assign a value to it, Joe, and I'm simply going to outputting or printing using console log. Now from global context, simply call that function to execute it. So that's pretty much a small function definition that I wrote. So this function will simply print the name username Joe. But we are interested to see the scope property of a function, because as you know that on my script the functions are first class object, so you can pass a function as a parameter, or you can receive a function from another function. So that actually creates the scoping problem, and to solve the scoping problem the concept of closure came in. But let's focus in here. Let's actually now see the hierarchical list of this get username function. So I'm going to do console dot dar and get username. So let's see what it prints. So let's expand this. You see, we are interested about this scope property, and for this function, this get username right now, it only have the global object, and as global object is accessible from anywhere from the program, so this is not interesting for closure's point of view. So now let's expand this function a bit more to get the core concept of closure, because the definition of closure is nothing but a function and is statistically saved the all parent scopes. So let's modify this function a bit. Simply return a function. Just return a function, and in here console.log the username. I don't need this line. So this function is now returning a function, and that's actually returning a function. In the function we have a console log username, but that username does not define inside this function. It is actually defined in its parent scope. So this kind of variable are called a free variable. And the variable that's called a free variable that does not have a definition or declaration inside that function. Instead, it is declared in its parent scope. Those kind of variables are called a free variable. So this function is now returning a function. Now just simply receive that function, var name function, and what you do is simply call the name function to execute the function. So in here it's the same thing. It's simply going to print this Joe in there. Now what we want to do is we want to do another interesting thing. We want to define the username in the global scope, and want to see that, okay, let's say Jenny. So in this case you might be wondering, like, what will happen, because we have a username here and we have an username here inside the get username function, and we are calling the received function from the global scope. So which one it should pick? Should it pick this one, or it should pick from this one? And that's when the closure comes in, because this creates a scoping issue, like which one it should listen to. And that's when JavaScript decided that, okay, every function we create on activation, means function when the function starts, include with the function there has to be a scope property, and in the scope property it will save all the scopes it needs. So for all the functions, the global scope is by default in there, but for this function, let's say this function, if we simply print the hierarchical list of this function, then you'll see that this function not only has a global scope in its scope property, at the same time it actually adds another closure type object. Inside that closure type object, it stores this variable. Let's see that. Let's see in the browser console. Okay, here just simply now change this to, and now if you run this, and then you'll see that, see, now on this function's scope it has now two, and one is the global and another is the closure type object. And inside the global closure type object, you see that the username Joe is in there. So this is actually saved with the function. Whenever the function saved with the function means when the function starts, this actually on activation this is there. So if you return the function from this context to a global context, still this scope property comes with it. It goes along with the function. So when you execute the function, it reads from here and not from the global scope. And this is what creates the closure, and that's actually solves this functional argument problems. And so closure in a language actually comes because of these functional argument problems. So to solve these functional argument problems, and JavaScript supports the full closure. So that's pretty much it. So that's it for today. Thank you.